What's up, guys? So I am going to be answering the questions that you left in my stories yesterday. There are literally hundreds of them at this point, so I'm gonna get through as many as I can. What are your favorite edible gold dust to paint with? Opinions on non-toxic gold highlighters. Thank you guys so much for being nice, joining, and just saying hi. It means a lot to me. I will save this on my Instagram as well as put it on YouTube. Okay. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. Okay. Gold dusts. So there's the highlighters, which are non-toxic, but also not food and not edible, not FDA approved for human consumption. And then there are the edible gold dust or silver dust or metallic dusts or whatever. Lots of controversy because for the longest time, if you wanted to get metallics, you'd always use highlighters. And they actually contain metallic compounds in them. And if you put it in the microwave, technically it'll spark. And for most human bodies, it's not going to kill you or negatively impact you, but you will always have a percentage of population that's freaking gonna have a really bad reaction to that, right? So because of that, you need to make a very conscious, informed decision on which is right for you. Highlighter sellers will always tell you that it's for decoration only and that it's not for consumption. So they're selling it to you with the assumption that you're going to put it on a piece of decoration that will be removed before consumption. So that's what it really means for something to be for decorative use only, non-edible. That's what a highlighter falls under. Now we have the stuff that's FDA approved or regulated in some way, and it's actually able to be consumed. So a lot of food colors are FDA approved. Most of them are FDA approved. My friends over at the Sugar Art have like their metallic line of golden halo stuff, new silver stuff. Those are the names of the colors, but they're called sterling pearls. You can get them on our website or the Sugar Art website, and they're fully edible. So it's really about not eating things that might potentially have a problem with your body. My sink just made a weird noise. So I would always steer people towards the FDA semi-regulated stuff instead of the highlighter, even though you will never get that beautiful metallic look of highlighter using the FDA approved stuff. So that's my 2 cents. Ultimately, it's up to you to take that risk, but there are people who have gotten severely ill from highlighter. Sure, it's a small number of people, but if you apply that kind of concept to anything, you don't care like how far, where do we draw the line, right? So that's my 2 cents about highlighters versus edible dust. You gotta make the decision for yourself. I'm giving you the information. Please keep your humans safe. That's it. Not cookie related, I've always been curious, when did you think Game of Thrones should have ended? We stopped watching it, spoiler alert, when Joffrey died. That was the perfect ending for me. I don't need anything else. What airbrush would you recommend for beginners? Oh, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm gonna put the links of all the products that I talk about here so that you don't have to like dig around for them. If you're a beginner airbrush user and you don't want to spend a lot of money, there are some airbrushes in the $50 to $70 price range on Amazon that will be adequate for getting your feet wet. If you are able to spend $100 to $120, Cookie Countess has a great airbrush system, and my friends at the Sugar Art have a great airbrush system. Go for those. But if you're on a budget, there are some like very no-name brands on Amazon that I'll link you in the YouTube video. You can search for cordless airbrush, for example, and you're going to get about stuff in the $50 to $60 range. And just make sure you get airbrush color instead of using gel color. So hopefully if you're able to look on Amazon, you'll find some good options. Otherwise, when this YouTube video goes up, I will link them for you. Are you tired of making cookies yet? Asks McKenna. Yes and no. I'm tired of batch making cookies or bulk production when it comes to cookies. I used to really like go really hard in my cottage food operation when I was doing full-time cottage food. And I'm definitely burnt out from making high volume production. We're talking about like, 15, 20 dozens a week easily. No more. I would prefer to not go back to that life. My body cannot handle it. This last season, I tried to do 2 pop-ups, one on December 12th, one on December 18th. And I ended up canceling the one on December 18th because literally all of, like, whatever is here in my hands, it was in pain. This muscle, every time I squeezed with the piping bag, you know how you squeeze a piping bag? Cramped, like within seconds of piping, and my body was just like, we can't do this anymore. So yes and no, I do still love making cookies, but I want to make them on my terms. Where did you buy your large cutters from your recent pop-up, and how to bake large cookies? Okay, this is an interesting question. So my large cutters are from my friend Busy Bee Sweet. She actually does like really cute cutters that you don't find in a lot of different stores, so definitely check her out. I will link her below if you're on YouTube. And Nancy, I'll get to your projector thing later shortly, but any small projector from Amazon with good reviews will work. I still use a Pico. You can see it in the corner up here with wires, so I'm not the best for getting that advice from an actual user. But there are a lot that I link in my projector blog post, including some newer wireless ones, and you will be paying the price, right? It'll be in the 200s range versus the 100 range, but I think it'll be worth it, and it'll last if you do a lot of volume. There's also projectors in like the $50 range that they'll get you by, but they're kind of janky. How do you bake large cookies? Sorry, I'm a little all over the place. I haven't done a live in a while. I'm trying to get my bearings again. How do you come up, how do you bake large cookies? So we're talking about cookies like the size of my head almost, right? I actually have to do a little bit of a test. This is recipe dependent and temperature dependent. So I would usually lower the temp by like 5 degrees and then 5 to 10 degrees, and then bake for at least 3 to 4 minutes longer. You have to keep an eye on it because there's nobody that can test that except for you. Ever heard of finding little dust or lint particles on drying cookies? How to prevent? Oh my God, all the time we wear clothes, right? My #1 most found things on cookies is freaking lint. Am I gonna do it naked? Am I gonna do it in like a clean room outfit? Sure, the hair's always up. You can put hair nets on. I find eyebrows, you know, you could wear a mask. We wear masks right now if we're doing high volume production, but lint is almost impossible to handle unless if you go out of your way to wear low lint clothes, and then make sure that when you're storing your cookies, they are away from any kind of dust or lint, or just have like a gentle cover. It's like a thin cover over your rack of cookies, or get a bun rack, or store them in the dehydrator with the lid on. So that should help. How do you come up with your cookie designs? I'm used to cake. Cookies designs seem different. Yes, so cake and cookies, because they're 2 different mediums, 2 very different sizes of canvases, 2 different, you know, completely different techniques for many kinds of things. When we do cookie designs, I look firstly for inspiration. This actually is related to a lot of inspiration related questions. And when it comes to inspiration, it can come from anywhere. Of course, it can come from other cookiers. Make sure you just give them a shout out or a hello if you're using one of their designs. But you can also draw inspirations from things around you. Nature is a great place, but wrapping paper is amazing. Greeting cards are amazing. Make sure you're not like stomping on anybody else's intellectual property, and just give them a heads up if you're gonna go ahead and do a straight up copy. Otherwise, a tag or something like that just to say, hey, I drew inspiration from you is great. But really start from there, and especially at the beginning, we copy before we find our own style. So go ahead and copy a bunch if you're transitioning mediums from cake to cookies. And eventually, as you do more and more, you're gonna find a style that works for you, that you really enjoy, because no matter what, at the end of the day, we're all gonna have a slightly unique style. Mine is more like clean, more minimalist designs. I like bright colors, a lot of contrast. Some other people do a lot of pastels. You know, I don't have it in me to do that as beautiful and as appealing and as like trendy pastels are. I just can't get there. So that's what I would recommend. Look around for other cookies to inspire you. Look for wrapping paper. Look for greeting cards. go to Target dollar section and wander around. A lot of, you know, cookie decorators as well as cookie cutter companies draw inspiration from things that we see in the store, right? Like unicorns, all kinds of unicorns. How long did it take you to feel confident enough to leave your day job? For a little bit of context, I had a 10-year biotech career, and I was a biomedical engineer who graduated, and then like I got a job in tech, and it was all biotech, and really fulfilling. Like I loved it, and then I did cookies on the side the whole time. It took me the whole time to finally quit. I actually still was doing consulting up till last year. So if you want to be technical about how long it took me to quit, I worked 10 years. I worked 10 years before I had the guts to quit. But what that 10 years gave me is allowed me to develop, give me a solid financial foundation so that I can support my family. Currently, you know, Brian's working on my custom bakes. He does that full time. And, you know, we don't really pay ourselves for that kind of work. We do it because there is a gap. There's a need in our industry for a tool like that. But our tech backgrounds, he was a software developer and I worked in software medical devices, allowed us to serve the baking community in this way full time now. So it took like a decade, even though, yeah, a lot of people could have done it sooner, but I'm very risk averse. So I decided to just wait until I had a solid, you know, I had money saved in case something went wrong, if we didn't bring in a cent, if we had a medical emergency, because God knows our healthcare is not amazing here in the US. So we want to do all of that. Would like to start shipping. What system/software you use versus a post office /FedEx fees? Well, it depends on what you want to ship. Are you shipping things that are really big? Are they really small? Are you shipping cookies? Are you shipping perishables? Anything that requires refrigeration in the sense that you're shipping chocolate, for example. Depending on what you're shipping, your options are going to be very different. Now, here's why I don't have a specific answer for you, because it just depends on what you're shipping. If you're shipping cookies and you're shipping a lot of them, you might get a good deal from FedEx or UPS at a little of a bulk rate over USPS. But if your products are small and you're able to fit stuff into flat rates, you can use USPS flat rate shipping, priority flat rate shipping, that starts at like $8 or $9 for a small box. I have a whole video on YouTube for shipping. So Los Angeles gal, I love that. Check out the video on YouTube. I have a shipping video. Just Google Borderlands Bakery shipping cookies, and that shows you my favorite way for shipping 1 dozen cookies. And you can scale that concept and use various types of boxes at USPS. I always recommend people to start off at USPS because that's the most accessible. And then if you find that they're not suiting your needs, go to FedEx and UPS and kind of explore those options. Will My Custom Bakes ever be an app? So for those who are not familiar, My Custom Bakes, check it out. My Custom Bakes on Instagram is a web application that my husband and I developed for the basically custom cookie community to help make the order intake and management process easier. So we have a whole quoting process in place that Square, Wix will not have. We allow you to customize your product to any level of detail you want. Check it out, mycustombakes.com. It's totally free to use for now, but I think because we would love to be paid for our hard work over the last like 2 years at this point, we will probably start charging anywhere between $7 to $8, something like that, or $7.99, $8.99 a month for those services. It can replace most people's website, and we know that we can't depend on social media apps like this as much as we love them. So definitely check that out. It'll make your life easier. I promise. Made for cookiers by cookiers. Tips on how to avoid shoulders, back pain from decorating cookies for a long time. Posture. Posture, ergonomics, tools. So posture is you're not like hunched, right? We all have different ergonomics, different weight, heights, you know, everything's different. No two people are alike. But the one thing that has helped me is making sure that my chair and like the ergonomics of the way that I'm sitting when I decorate is comfortable for me. Some people decorate standing, some people decorate sitting. It's up to you to figure out whatever is the most comfortable for you. I also use a butt cushion. I am not using it right now. I will link it in the YouTube video when this goes up on YouTube. It is amazing. All right, so I absolutely think that the butt cushion helps, and because I'm getting older, it really makes my hips feel better. I had just horrible hips. How far in advance do you post holiday promos and pre-sales? It's been a while since I've really done cookies at that scale, but I would say if you're giving yourself at least 2 weeks to do the baking and prepping and the actual work part of it, you want to do sale at least a week before that. So 3 weeks before pickup for a holiday, for something big. The only way to really find out though is to do kind of a test on your own and figure out the timeline, because everybody has a different demographic, different busyness, whatever else is going on in your area will impact your sales as well. So definitely test it out, but I think 3 weeks is really safe for holidays and gives you enough time to prep. There's somebody that asked a question about how do you know how much icing to use? And my friend Dave actually put together this amazing royal icing calculator on YouTube and on our blog that you can go find. So my YouTube link is in my bio, and you can also find it by just Googling Borderlands Bakery YouTube. And he basically has an Excel sheet that helps you calculate how much icing you need based on how many cookies you're trying to do and what size and everything. Go check that out. We have a YouTube video where we have a Zoom and he teaches you how to use it. Do I like Americolor? Yeah, I love Americolor, but like for me, I've personally found that if you're going for a gel color, I use Chef Master mainly because I think their color payoff is a little better, especially if you want to put white in your icing. I love their brightener. It's great and it's super economical. After Chef Master, I like the Sugar Art Master Elites for coloring my icing. So that's what I use today. How do you package cookies? Airtight container or just clear bags? After they are fully decorated and dry, I will always heat seal them. I've got a video on heat sealing on YouTube. So look for Borderlands Bakery heat sealing on Google, YouTube, and then you'll find it. But basically, I always keep my cookies airtight because in America, we like our cookies soft. That's the general consensus. It's not everybody's consensus. And in other parts of the country, people like them more crisp. So I always heat seal them, and I heat seal them in clear cellophane bags. So check out that YouTube video if you haven't. What is your best advice for a beginner wanting to sell? A lot of patience. The biggest challenge of an industry like ours, this cottage food industry, is that no two people does things the same way. There's no industry standard to reference and be like, I could follow these directions and I'm guaranteed these results. It simply doesn't exist. When you work a corporate job, you've got some kind of a ladder that you can climb or some kind of a career progression, or you have some idea of where you can go after this should you want to. But in baking, there isn't. And for beginners, it's really patience and giving yourself the time to be bad at something while you're learning it before you get good. I think beginners get frustrated super easily. What I see most often is people see what we do as cookiers and they're like, oh, it's just cookies. Why is it $5 a cookie? And they pick up a piping bag and they realize they gotta bake the cookies, make the icing, color the icing, make your consistencies, do all this crap. And it's so much work. And it's really giving yourself the patience to go through the process and to learn what works for you. I can't stress this enough. Everybody wants the answer to a perfectly decorated cookie when, a perfect business when, but there aren't really good answers for that, and it depends on what your goals are. So give yourself patience, be bad at something before you're good at something, but also like have some idea of what you want to do. So for example, Do you want to make 50 grand this year and you're kind of open to how to get to that 50 grand, which means you have flexibility in how to execute that? Or is your goal to better your skills at decorating sugar cookies, in which case I'd say do more custom orders. So it really depends on what your goals are, and then you can kind of work backwards to that, but don't give up. That's another beginning thing. Persistence, repetition, time, there's no replacement for that. So for beginners, if you're a beginner and you're watching this, please keep at it. And I promise things will get better and easier as time goes on. Have you done much of vegan baking? Wondering about the best egg replacers? This highly depends on what you're trying to bake. If you're trying to bake like cutout cookies, like we do these decorated cookies, aquafaba or the liquid from canned chickpeas is a really good binder. We have a vegan cookie and icing recipe in our shop if you're interested, but you can also Google around for free ones. And the storage, how long do you hold on to your icing? You can Google this and just see what other people do, but what I do is if it's a couple days, I just leave it out at room temp and then I stick it in the fridge or freezer immediately if I know it's not going to be touched for more than 3 days. That's just my rule for myself and it works really well. How do you organize your cutters? I'm gonna take a picture after this of how I organize my cutters. This is how I organize my cutters. So we have like the miscellaneous bucket, my basic shapes. This is like unicorns and stuff, magical creatures and stuff. Basic letters, plaques, and then my Valentine's Day stuff, my baby stuff, because you know, like love babies. All the other holidays, we've got summer and winter, fall. So this is like Halloween and pumpkins. And then we've got 2 bins of holiday and Christmas stuff. What non-cookie related things inspire you? This is a really good question. You know, there's a lot of social things going on, especially the last 2 years. I think that has gotten a lot of attention as far as, you know, diversity, inclusivity, things like that. I think topics that are not fun to talk about, that some people deny are even in existence, right? And what inspires me is when I see people live holistically instead of just like blinders on and in their own lane. So the ability for people to be compassionate and empathize with other people beyond just you're a cookie decorator, you're an influencer, you are whatever your job defines you to be. So I am inspired by people who see people as people and not as their jobs. So I have people in my life that I really, really admire because they put people before profits, before you know, all these other things, and I think that's very, very admirable. Specifically, what comes to mind are like the leaders in my life who've given me an opportunity to like grow as a person and given me a chance to fail. So I also admire people who give you a safe place to fail, because we all gonna fail, we all gonna mess up, and a lot of us grow up and failure was not an option, right? Like Asian, straight A kid, you gotta be perfect, right? That was super, like, I actually think that was limiting for me as I was growing up. And I had a very recent conversation with my parents where they finally realized that we all have this value beyond academic value, beyond whatever we achieve socially. So it's interesting because unless your basic needs are taken care of when it comes to, you know, enough food, shelter, you've got, you know, a relatively healthy relationship and a relatively good support system, unless if you have all these money, right? Enough money to live and do the things you want to do. Unless if you have all these basic things or like the foundational things of just living life in the society covered, you do not have the ability to even think beyond that or beyond to other people, other things, and helping other people. So people who work to toward helping other people and creating like kind of a better life for people around them it really inspires me. But hobbies outside, I actually really love to read. I just have not made the time to read. I like reading all kinds of things. Fiction is great, nonfiction is great. For the past couple of years, I've been reading a lot of like business books, and it's like getting a little bit monotonous and kind of makes my soul cry, because working for yourself is very difficult. Having a small business is very difficult. Doing what we do here and trying to create content, create supplies, and always be present for our community is really challenging. I want to get back into playing music. I used to play bass and piano when I was growing up, and I'd love to get back into that. We love watching movies, so there are a lot of things we love to do outside of baking. It's just right now the priority is really building this little Borderlands bakery baby and get it to a point where we can relax a little bit, but that's, you know, that's still years away, right? So that's my long-winded answer. Would you ever organize a Europe tour with a pop-up workshop, greetings from the Netherlands? Okay, we have some exciting news. Next year, COVID allowing, we are going to be going to Europe with some of the Borderlands bakery team. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions. In between June and July, we're gonna make the rounds. The Netherlands is on the list. I've been to Amsterdam before. I haven't been anywhere else in the Netherlands. France, I've never been to France. I've been to many other parts of Europe. Never been there. We're not sure if we're gonna hit Germany yet, but I've been there for work. Switzerland, we're gonna hit Switzerland, and then we're gonna hit Hungary because I have colleagues and friends who live in Hungary, and I would love to visit them. Oh, this is interesting. Ever been called aggressive as a woman in corporate or business? If yes, how do you process it? I am a small person, and I'm saying that because it matters. A small Asian chick, and if you just look at me and take me at face value, I'm pretty harmless. And I actually think that I get underestimated more than people call me aggressive, because I don't really come off as aggressive. I come off sometimes with an RBF, resting bitch face, because I am thinking, or I'm just in my own world and I'm not actively trying to smile. So I've come off as like disengaged or rude, but very rarely aggressive. But I have worked with women who are supposedly like have that, you know, vibe or whatever, and it's usually because they've been jaded in the past or they've been hurt in the past in some way, and this is how it's manifesting, or they're overcompensating for something because they were not able to achieve results by being nice, so they got to be aggressive. And my only 2 cents for someone who has been giving the feedback that they're aggressive is to be like, oh, can you give me some examples of where I was aggressive? And then you think about that and decide if that was actually aggressive or if that was not related to you at all. So without knowing, it's really hard to say. I've never been called aggressive in that sense. Persistent, yes, and firm, yes. I have really like a hard, tough love kind of thing going on. My old bosses used to tell me that I was a tough woman because I was tough on you, because I wanted the best for everybody, but delivery also, and your body language and the way that you connect with people. If you're able to genuinely show them that you care about them, I think that can come out in your tone and your body language and the way that you make eye contact. So maybe it's an area for improvement. It's hard to say. But I think having an open conversation to whoever gave you that feedback or made that remark would be really helpful. What tools do you use to create your cookie designs? Paper and pencil. iPad very rarely, because I can't draw if my life depended on it. My friend Andy over at Cookies has a whole course on how to design cookie designs on your iPad. If that's your cup of tea, it's not mine. So definitely go check it out, all right? Oh my gosh, okay. Look at these people. Okay, next question. Best tips for newbies at bulk orders. May have first one next month. Okay, bulk orders. Let's talk about bulk orders if you've never made one. For me, I like to work 4 dozen at a time, bake, fully decorate, heat seal, throw them in the freezer. I use freezing a lot. I have a whole blog post on freezing and why I think that's advantageous. Check it out. Use what you got as far as like an extra freezer or anything like that, but I like to work 4 dozen at a time. And that allows my cookies to be done within a 24-hour, 36-hour time period so that they stay fresh. And then freezing them kind of freezes the time and makes the texture homogeneous throughout the whole cookie. So freezing actually enhances texture for our American palates in most cases. Where's the best place to learn about creating / mixing custom icing colors? All right, so there's some color theory stuff that Lila Loa has. That's a basic color theory thing that you can pick up and kind of learn about. There are people who have color mixing guides based on brands or gel color lines. I think Mick from Making Cookies has one, and I think Arlo's Cookies has one. I just cannot remember off the top of my head, but when I post this on YouTube, I will be sure to just double check my sources and link you below. How do you deal with insurance since you're self-employed and your hub works for a Borderlands bakery? Very good question. I like these questions. They're such a good mix of questions. All right, so I'm assuming this question is referring to health insurance because health insurance is a nightmare in the United States. We pay for it. So we don't do Obamacare. We use, or whatever the official term for that is, we buy ours through Kaiser. It's about $1,000 a month for 2 of us for something really crappy. So we pay completely out of pocket for insurance, and then our coverage is like if something catastrophic happens, like I lose an arm, it'll cover most of it, but anything below a couple grand, we pay out of pocket. So it's not a good situation. And I think that's one of the parts I missed most about my corporate gigs was definitely had better healthcare coverage because of the employer contributions. So if you're thinking of running your own business at some point, make sure you do have health insurance because I mean, it's there just in case something happens, right? You hope nothing happens, but if something happens, it's there. How do you have the patience? Cookie decorating is so hard. This is a really funny question. How do we have patience for any art, I think is really where things are at, because if you love what you do, you'll find the time and the patience to do it. And because I love it, I do it. I think it would be impossible for someone to absolutely hate cookies and make a living out of doing cookies because it is a labor of time, love, effort, everything. Oh my goodness. Are you going to Cookie Con Reno? Heck yeah, we're going to Cookie Con Reno. If you don't know what Cookie Con is, cookiecon.net, go check it out. It's like the biggest cookie gathering. It's great. We'll be there as a vendor, so if you're going and you're watching this, please stop by and say hi and like buy some stuff. Borderlandsbakery.com stuff. We'll have all our merch and supplies there. If you weren't in the cookie business, what other dream job would you want? I just saw this question pop up made by Bina? Oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm probably not saying that right. I haven't given too much thought about it to that, but honestly, what I was doing before was something that I absolutely loved. I killed it, and I could have climbed really high in that biotech ladder because it was so fun. I got to interact with people. I worked on projects that helped save lives. You know, for example, we worked on ultrasound imaging catheters. You made an incision in your groin, boop, 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 went up to your heart, and we imaged to make sure that before we did a procedure or anything, there weren't any blockages, and if there is a blockage, we put a stent in there. So it was really cool, and I was really fulfilled because we literally like prevented people from dying, right? Really, really cool. I think I would love to go back to some kind of biotech and just see how far I can go. I'd love a job that allows me to travel because I think travel opens up minds, gives you perspectives, and makes you more compassionate as a human because you see how other people live, and I just don't think we do that enough in America. We don't have the opportunity to see how other people live. So that would be ideal. A job that allows me to travel. Maybe I could be a travel vlogger one day. I don't know. Borderlands Bakery is not going to be something that I die with, I don't think. What do you enjoy selling more, products or cookies? Hands down products. I'm a content creator at heart. I love creating content. So when it comes to doing like physical cookies and volume cookies, my body says no now, and I just get bored very easily. With products, I love the whole product development process. I love going through the prototyping process, working with people to do 3D drawings of what I want created. I love looking for manufacturers. I love working with manufacturers. I love figuring out what it is, what to do for the manufacturing line to create the things that we want. Some of the stuff in our shop is just off the shelf and white labeled, but a lot of it is made from scratch. And there's a whole process before that where you have an idea, you go see what's out there, you see if you can improve upon it to make it fit what's in here. You work with a designer to get it drawn out, designed, it's all set up. And then you find people who can model it in a 3D. You go through a prototyping process. Like, I love that whole process. So products, and especially products that are more unique that I can kind of manifest, right? Does it flatter you or annoy you when people use your designs as inspo or their own cookies? So this happens all the time. I've been making cookies for 10 years now. I followed Sweet Ams and Sweet Sugar Belle. They were like the OG people for me because there really wasn't that much out there 10 years ago. But especially in the last 5 years, there's been a huge boom in the decorated cookie industry. And now there's just so much out there. So if people use them, I don't care. I used Sweet Am's design when I first started. I Googled and Pinterest designs. I didn't even know to give credit when I was first starting. I didn't start giving credit until like 4 years into my journey. I didn't even realize that was a thing. And now I'm conscientious about it if I draw inspiration from other people. But for the most part, I'm flattered because you took something that I did at some point in my life and you liked it so much that you wanted to do it yourself. I think that's incredible. So yeah, cool. You never have to ask for permission, just do it. What foundation are you wearing so pretty? I have actually really good skin, but I am using a little bit of Laura Mercier finishing powder to give me like a even skin tone. Otherwise I have a crap ton of freckles, and that's actually the only thing that I have on my face today, and then some eyeliner and eyeshadow. Probably too much more info than you cared for. How did you decide to start a shop when there were so many others selling similar product? So I started my shop in 2017 when there weren't so many other people selling similar products. But there's always going to be people selling similar products. You just have to make yours slightly different. But there are people who sell similar products and they're like carbon copies of what everybody else does, and they do fine. And it's just about understanding that there's actually enough for all of us to go around, and you will find your niche, and you don't have to go around stealing other people's clients. And turns out not everybody likes everything, so you will have people who like your thing, and then they will have people who like their thing, and that's totally okay. Same thing for cookies. There are a gazillion cookiers in the Sacramento area, but the people who come to me or to, you know, my friend Sonia, they just are looking for a slightly different style. And I think that's how you have to look at it. There's enough. There's not a scarcity of that need. So we're here to fulfill that need. And one day, should I decide that I am tired of this, I will have to go find something else. And that's on me, not on anybody else. Who would you say you got your artistic eye from? Honestly, I feel like I had no artistic eye. Are you kidding me? Like, I can't draw. I grew up discouraged from like all this artistic stuff because academia was #1. So I never felt like I had to develop that. And I found it accidentally through, I used to sell counterfeit K-pop bookmarks when I was 13 on Soompi forums using AOL online discs and using those free hours that we would get. Oh my God, I'm dating myself. And I started doing that as my first art project, and then I got into making like cross-stitch charms and selling them online. I was like 15, getting cash in the mail. It was insanity. And then I started making other things like origami roses, and then eventually I had a jewelry business that actually did like really decent. When you look back on it, it didn't feel like it at the time, but we were doing really well, and I was able to like take care of most of my college bills through that business, that little jewelry business. And I have friends that I still have today that I made through that little jewelry business, which is absolutely incredible. So I didn't inherit it, I don't think, because I didn't even, my parents weren't even artistic, but my aunt. So I Wow, this is like story time. I don't know if any of you give a crap about any of this, but here we go. I was born in China. I came here when I was 6, so I am like 0 generation, or I am an immigrant. And my aunt raised me for a couple of years while my parents came first and tried to like kind of build a life for us here before they could bring their kid. Huge sacrifice, right? To be away from your child for 4 to 6 years, depending on if it was my dad or my mom. And my aunt used to work in an animation studio, and she would bring me to work. I was young, right? So I had exposure, but I didn't have understanding. So she would be drawing animations and stuff, and I'd be like strapped to her in her little thing, and I'd watch her, but it never clicked. But I think in the back of, you know, because we're so impressionable at that time, there's something that impacts you as a kid there. So I attribute it to my aunt. How long have you been making cookies? 10 years. Selling them for 8. Oh my gosh. Okay. Really want to start my own cookie. Oh my god, you guys are amazing. If you want to start your own cookie business, you gotta just do it. You don't need anybody's permission. I got this email once from a girl, and she was basically like, I want to start my own business and I don't know how. And honestly, nobody can really just give you steps for you to follow. Sure, we can say, hey, go get a business license, get an accountant, make sure your taxes are done. But aside from that, you just have to do it, you guys. One step at a time, and you learn as you go. I learn stuff every single day, and I F things up every single day, and I make calls that are detrimental to my business every single day, but you still move forward because you still do good things, right? It's not all bad. So whatever it is, you got this. And I would also offer, if you are new and you're looking for specific advice, like what tool can help me with this? Specific advice. You can DM like somebody like me and we'll point you in the right direction, even if we can't give you the answers. Or Google. Google is absolutely amazing in this day and age, and a lot of them will give you itemized lists of what to do if you're struggling with getting your cottage food license or business license. And lastly, you know, Borderlands Bakery actually has a Facebook group, and it's amazing because there's no BS on there. It's just people sharing and helping each other out. If you need help, join that Facebook group. It's called Borderlands Bakery, and we'll love having you. If you have any questions at all, ask. There's nothing too silly to ask. Just ask. Consult Sir Google first, and then if you don't get an answer, ask. Using parchment paper or silicone mat? Depends. They bake differently. When you think about silicone mats, they're a little thicker. When you think about parchment, it's really, really thin. So the way that they conduct heat is different. Depends on what you like. Parchment, you can get a little bit of a browner bottom. Silicone mat, it's a little harder because it conducts heat a little bit slower. If you like really, really moist cookies, silicone mat, because if you allow your cookies to dry on your silicone mat and you leave them on there to decorate everything, it'll kind of prevent the bottoms from drying out as quick. And I do find that with parchment, it dries out a little faster. So it depends if you like crisp, more dry, or more moist cookies. No wrong answer here, all preference. And you'll only know if you do it. So try both, decide, and figure out what you like. Will you be teaching any in-person classes this coming year? I would love to, COVID depending. We do take COVID pretty seriously in our little bubble. We have high-risk people in our lives, so we're not interested in spreading that to anybody that we've got. So as long as the COVID situation is like under some level of control and not going rampant, I would love to have physical classes. Would love to do one in New York, for example, on that side of the country. How do you prevent your icing from cratering? I struggle with this so much. Depends, actually. If you have cratering things, I'm actually collecting pictures to create a YouTube video on cratering because it depends. It could be your icing is too thin. It could be you underbeat your icing. It could be the layer underneath is too dry. So depending on all those things, that can impact the level of craters. Also, how are these craters manifesting? Are they manifesting when you do lines? Are they manifesting when you do small areas? Or are they manifesting when you do like large floods, right? Context matters, and that's why like I'm really anal about context and making sure that we understand the whole problem and that we're actually addressing the root cause of the problem and not just giving you like a surface level troubleshooting. It's my style is not for everybody. I get really deep really technical, but that way you will get the real answer. And you'll be less frustrated in the long run if you spend a little extra time up front doing that troubleshooting. Tips for setting and sticking to boundaries, breaks, limits in this business. If you are in the baking business, whether you are at home or in, you know, your own little brick and mortar, boundaries are hard. I suck at boundaries. Up till like last year, I didn't even really go out or have fun. And it kind of sucked. So everything, keep in mind, everything, your actions have a cost. Your non-actions have a cost. So no matter what, you're going to be paying for it. Are you going to be paying for it with your body, with your relationships, time lost potentially doing something else? And I've started thinking about the cost of doing something and not doing something. So for an example, I canceled my pop-up on December 18th because my body literally could not do it anymore, and I was tempted with every fiber of my being to keep the pop-up and just muscle through it like I've done in the past. And then I paused and said, what is the cost if I didn't do it? Money, okay, like $2,000, right? That's the money cost if I didn't do it. What is the cost to me if I did do it? My body's gonna be effing broken. It's gonna be impacting the people around me. Like when you get sick and you have bad health and you know, you impact the people around you, that's a cost, whether you realize it or not. And if you have a healthy body, you're able to, you know, that's something you don't even think about. We take that for granted. So that's the kind of cost, the cost of relationships. So my biggest cost in the last 10 years was my relationship with my family and friends. For the people that didn't get what I was doing and didn't understand that I was trying to build a business, they are no longer in my life because I couldn't dedicate the time into that relationship. If they understood, we still hang out. So yeah, it's opportunity cost. It's exactly like that if you know economics or something like that. All right, last one or two questions before I sign off. How much should a beginner sell cookies for? This is highly dependent on your area and your current skill level, as well as what the market will hold. There's no easy answer to that. Everybody wants an easy answer, but at least start at least $3 a cookie minimally. Alva just gave me purple hearts. Alva's a really good friend, you guys. The Bento Kitchen, go follow her. She's freaking fantastic. We met on the internet via dogs, and we've been friends ever since, and she got into cookies and she is killing it, and she is one of those people who got it and understood, and she understands when things get really busy and I drop off the radar. And yeah, thanks Alva. But anyways, minimally $3 per cookie to start is what I would say is a good kind of starting point. Anything below that is not doing anybody any favors. I have a blog post related to how to price your baked goods, and it is dependent on these three things of your skill level, your location. Geography is super important because that affects how much people make and how much people spend, as well as what the market will hold in your area. And that's just looking around you and seeing how much other people are charging and making sure that you're not undercharging, because undercharging results in a couple of different things. One is you're obviously not getting compensated for your time, efforts, art, experience, skill, blah, blah, blah. But second, it devalues the entire industry. So if you're underpricing, you're hurting everybody, right? And this is unfortunately like what happens when we live in a world where we have Walmart. We need a Walmart because there are people at all different economic levels, and we need to be able to serve all of those communities. But decorated cookies are not like a discount item. They're actually a luxury item because of all your work, artistry, and time. So make sure to price appropriately so that we raise each other up instead of like setting false expectations, right? And that's only going to help all of us. So hopefully that makes sense. Any tips on time management? Oh my God, time management is a huge thing. Not everybody has a luxury to do this, and I have no children. Yes, I will save this life. And I will also put it on YouTube with links and everything down below when I get a chance to upload, edit, chop it up, blah, blah, blah. But the best thing I can offer you when it comes to time management is to audit yourself first and foremost. Because just like when we are dieting, trying to gain weight or lose weight, unless if you know what you're doing today and you baseline yourself, you have no idea how to get to where you want to be. You don't even know what the problems are. And I feel like the moment you audit yourself and you start looking at how you actually spend your time is when you start to really realize where you can have some gains. And the only way to do that is to write it down or vlog it. So you can start your day just talking to yourself on the phone and being like, hey, I woke up at 6:30, now I'm making breakfast for the kids, whatever that is. And now it is 10:30 and I've done all these things. If you know how you're spending your time, you know better how to edit that. And once you have a good idea of that and you've tracked yourself for like a week, you can see where you can start to adjust your schedule. That's the best advice I can give when it comes to time management. And then making lists. I am a list person through and through, and I'm an old school write it down list person. And I will always create lists and check them off because it makes me feel good. And anything that makes you feel good makes it feel like you're making progress, which is a psychological trick, and it works. So for me, just do that. Okay. Oh, this is cool. Someone asked if I have ever been to China, but the last time I went with my now husband like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Oh my God, we've been together almost 14 years. But I think it was 11 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago that I went back to China last, and I'm from Shanghai. So we visited Shanghai, Beijing, things like that, and it was incredible. Even 10 years ago, everything was it was so easy to get around, even for someone who didn't read Chinese. I spoke Chinese, but everybody knows it's like they can tell I'm not from around there, right? So like, I loved it because everything was accessible. And people there, like the people you have to keep in mind is different from like the governing bodies, just like it is anywhere else. And people are generally, were happy when we went there. And I would say it was really easy to get around. Public transport was amazing. The healthcare system is actually really, really good. So the social services are really, really good there. You don't have to worry about getting sick or anything like that. I actually think that they've gotten better when it comes to that side of China. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's that. All right, and with that fun question, I think that's it. Oh, classes ever in the Los Angeles area. So I believe I would love to have classes in the Los Angeles area. There are a lot of friends in the Los Angeles area that I would love to connect with. So if COVID goes well or whatever, next year I would love to schedule some, but until things are legit actually better, it's hard to say. If you're interested in classes, we have a whole digital class suite. You can check us out, bakingwithborderlands.com. And with that, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. Oh my God, Eni just came on, but I'm leaving Eni. Bye, Eni. Okay, have a great night, you guys. I will see you later. Bye. I'm done. Yes. I'm still recording on the YouTube.